that, I'm going to throw it over to Sid.
Thank
Sid,
you
P.S.
very much.
Our birthday person is not here. Just FYI.
Oh, I was so looking forward to seeing her. Okay, cool. It's all good. It's all good. But we'll do a late happy birthday to her when she eventually does turn up, and hopefully she does sooner rather than later. I bored the living daylights out of everybody on Friday about truth and belief and all these things. I'm not going to put anyone on the spot about that stuff. And if you weren't here on Friday, I was trying to find a way to see if there was any kind of chink in the armor of so-called truth that we could break through and talk to each other, especially families who don't get along very well right now because they believe different things. You know, night is day and day is night, that stuff. But if you do want to talk about it, please feel free to bring it up. I'm just not going to put you on the spot. I think it's unfair, but it's because it's an incredibly complicated philosophical question. But I do have something that I read that I think is really cool, and it's E. Cummings, and he said, you know, whenever you think or you believe or you know, you are a lot of other people. But the moment that you feel, you are nobody but yourself. And that's kind of basically a beautiful way of summing up that whole conversation that I was really interested in. And that sense of following the gang, following the group, having your stories pushed to you, living in that bubble. You know, that's a bad habit. Let's get out of that. Let's read around subjects a little bit. I know truth is trust. You know, you have to trust everybody you say who tells you stuff, who says they're telling the truth, and just I hope we just get over ourselves, because it's very whiny, all this stuff on TV. And I know it doesn't matter what country you live in, because everybody has this problem. The same problem in America, the UK, Poland, and everywhere. We are susceptible to a little of the Kool-Aid. Cool. So let's talk to the first person, and I will not put you on the spot on the truth front.
All right. And then let's see, we're going to go talk to Maddie next.
Hi, Maddie.
Hi.
Oh my God, what a lovely quilt you have behind you.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited now to go listen to all of the Big Finish audios you've been in.
Yeah, they're great little company, and they just they're so modest and tiny. They work out of a tiny little studio in London, tucked away, sort of under a railway. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very nervous and excited.
Oh, good. That's a really lovely feeling. That's a nice place to be. Where are you?
I'm in Richmond, California, which is it's kind of near San Francisco, Berkeley area.
Oh yeah. It's a beautiful part of the world. I mean, just beyond and around, it's just gorgeous. I've only been up there a couple of times, but I think it's just divine. Northern California just hits the spot for me. Have you ever been really far north, up to Mount Shasta?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's beautiful up there. I was a little kid, so I don't remember it that well, but I remember it.
It's kind of one day post pandemic. It's worth a kind of road trip up there. I'd love to go again. It's sort of weird for those people who haven't been there or don't know what it is. It's like this little village at the top of a mountain, and wild sage grows everywhere. The kind of sage they use for smudge sticks. That's the actual sage that they're supposed to be made of. And you can imagine, you know, indigenous Americans gathering sage and making these sticks. It's a very crystally community. Everybody sells crystals or dream catchers, which is very cute, which is very sweet. But there's kind of a lot of that going on everywhere. And but I really loved my time up there. Tiny little town, really tiny. So how is your COVID experience panning out for you?
It's been weird. I'm very lucky that I've been able to keep my job, which is a really cool job. I work at an art center for people with developmental disabilities, like helping people make art. And so we've moved everything online to Zoom classes, and like where I drive around and deliver art supplies to people and run Zoom classes and like stay in touch with everybody and make sure everybody's doing okay, like being
Yeah.
away from our community for so long.
Is
So
that beautiful quilt behind you a product of this?
no, that's just my friend got it from the internet. It's not even like really a quilt, it's just printed. But
Oh, it looks lovely. I mean, I'm a big fan of quilts. We got given them as when my family were a kid from America, because I think Americans make them that sort of that folksy way of making quilts is sort of unique to parts of the USA.
yeah.
I'm sure it's unique to parts of Europe actually, or whatever, but I associate it with parts of the USA. And I've even been to a kind of a quilt exhibition. I just love going to see these things, and the quality of work is just astonishing. And they're lovely to throw on a sofa, you know.
Creative Growth is the name of the place where I work.
Yeah.
They're amazing. I'd love to like show everybody like artwork.
Do you have a link to them? Is it that kind of place that you welcome other people coming in and having snooping around?
Oh yeah, we've got a website and a gallery. It's creativegrowth.org. I can send it along later. And yeah, and the artists are amazing. Like we have artists whose work have been collected by the like New York MoMA, and
Wow.
like one of our artists just had a video piece acquired by the Brooklyn Museum, and they like show all over the country. It's like the folks, like I'm just an artist assistant and like art supply waitress when I'm there on site. Like the people who work at Creative Growth in the studio just make the most amazingly beautiful artwork in the world. It's so cool.
Why is it that art is accessible to everybody? I mean, developmentally challenged, neurodivergent, whatever you want to talk about. Art is a kind of simple language that everybody can talk. What is it about it that just it cuts through the sociological problems, and the problems of us building walls around ourselves and being all walled in by others, even worse. I wonder what it is about art that just gets straight through that. And why is it that so many people, I'm asking you complicated questions here, but why is it that so many people who are probably, you know, from the neurodiverse community, if that's a way of putting it, the language is still a bit, I'm not really together with the meta yet, but do you have an insight into that from working with a bunch of people?
I think part of it is just that like the folks in our art center, they're given the time and space and materials to make really beautiful stuff. And I kind of believe that most people, if they like, if that was their focus, then eventually they would make something amazing if they just make lots and lots of stuff. But also, I think the reason is because art comes from having a really interesting point of view about the world around you and like how you interpolate the world around you and then put that back out. And so I
Yeah,
think like the more diverse perspectives you get into art, the more interesting it is. And so I think,
yeah.
yeah, I think that's a big part of it too, is just
I
like,
love that. I mean, I think art critics can be kind of patronizing about it because they like to really indulge in the problems that a certain person has gone through before they've been able to make this art, and I'd rather it just spoke for itself. So they can label it primitivism or something. And I find that really patronizing because there's a lot of lovely art that really doesn't need a label, because the minute you do that, everybody's like, oh yeah, I see now, it's actually primitive. You know, I'm not sure I like it as much as I do the other stuff anymore. I was always a bit upset by that because obviously from Africa, that nearly all African art was described as primitivist.
yeah,
And when a piece of art was really simply not primitive, but came from Africa, people were like, oh my goodness, how amazing. This person has obviously read a book or learned something about the world. It's so upsetting, you know. So really, come on, guys, surely you're not like this. So how is it working alongside this community that you have? How does it, because you must get some, it must be very different every day. It must be, you must be thrown curveballs all the time.
it's mostly really amazing. I mean, you know, it's kind of like I said, when we're in the studio, I'm like kind of like an art supply waitress where I just like I'm walking around and looking at all of the beautiful stuff people are making and looking to see like, oh, do they need, do they need some more paint? Should I ask them if they want some more paint? Oh, did they finish? Should I ask them what they want to do next and help, figure out their next project? I don't know, but
Do you also do you feel responsible to inspire them to go? This is kind of thing we'd like to talk about, or do they inspire? I mean, how does that whole that coexistence work?
we're very like hands off in that way. Like pretty much everyone is self-directed, and if they, ask about certain areas or they're like, I don't know what to do next, I like give suggestions of different media to try, or like give them art books to look at to inspire them, or books of photos and things like that. But for the most part, it's like it's extremely self-directed. It's like, my job is to figure out how to facilitate them making the exact thing they want to make as much as is reasonably possible.
What a
Um,
brilliant thing! How are you funded?
we're funded partially through the regional center in California. Each county like pays for people with developmental disabilities to have a day program
Yeah.
where they go, and so that's part of it. And then part of it is a big chunk of it is sales, and actually, like our gallery is very successful. And then a big chunk of it is donations and stuff. And then also a big chunk is like grants and things like that.
And is it really, really, really prohibitively expensive stuff, like thousands of dollars for things?
No, no. Some of it is, but also like there's a lot of work that's in like the 35 to $500 range too. That's all really.
Wow.
So
Because people used to ask me, because I used to have art which I really loved. I can't really afford it anymore, but I really don't like posters in my own house. I don't mind. I love seeing them everywhere else. I have really no problem with posters, but I just love something that someone has touched. And maybe people can afford to go to this your gallery and have a look. And if something speaks to them, they can sort of go, oh, I'm going to take that. It'd be really cool. I'd like to do that. I'd love to go and have a look. And maybe something speaks to me. I see things in cafes and ask people if it's for sale, which is a terrible idea, by the way, because go, yes, it's $60,000. Okay, right. Now maybe we could talk about the normal price. They're trying to make something exciting happen in their lives. Well, this actor came in and he asked if we wanted to buy this, and I figured 60,000 was a pretty good price. People tend to think actors are really rich, and they're actually not. That is just so exciting. I'm really looking forward to. I hope you can write it down, the thing on the side.
I'll put it in the chat and I'll send it to Mel. I also wanted to show you, I've been drawing pictures of you.
I love that. Well, me, but absolutely. No, I think it's great.
Drawing fan art has been like keeping me
wow.
sane during the pandemic.
That's really beautiful light. That really is a beautiful light on that. My goodness.
Thank you.
You say drawing, but it looks like it's been painted in some way.
I'm mostly a painter, but I've been like experimenting with colored pencils recently.
Wow.
And so this is just me like pressing until my hand is sore with a bunch of colored pencils.
It's so beautiful. I mean, the texture in the dinner jackets, that's so great.
Thank you.
That is so nice.
I don't know how the light is on this one. But...
Wow. That's just fantastic. One of my favorite artists, that last one is very similar to a guy called Egon Schiele.
Oh, I love
I am a massive fan of. God, yeah, you've got the same kind of action going on in my face that guy. I always wanted to make, when I was younger, I wanted to make a Egon Schiele biopic because I felt I looked like him.
Oh, you did good. Do you mind if I have to show you one more?
No, you can show us as many as you want. This is much more interesting than listening to me bang on. Oh, that's fantastic. That's really great. And that looks like it's done with a felt tip with.
No, these are all colored pencils.
you've managed to make them look like they're used with completely different elements to make those. That's really great. Wow, lovely. You can show us as many as you want. You know, there is absolutely no limit on good art.
Those are the only ones I have handy. I also do like paintings of people dressed up in cosplay at comic book conventions and things like that. That's mostly what like my body of work is when I'm
Yeah.
a professional artist.
That seems like you write, yeah, you basically collecting sketches for something in the future. I mean, you know, like Da Vinci would go around collecting people's, you know, just drawing hands as he would walk by people or try and memorize someone's face and get it in the studio. Remarkably talented.
Thank you very much.
There's a wonderful, I'm so giddy about the community here so many people are talented. Who'd have thunk, huh? It's just amazing. It's like 100 people, pretty random, and there's, you know, 50 of us are really good drawers and 50 of us are mathematicians, for want of a better way of putting it. I mean, it's a really interesting core group of people. It's really fantastic. So much expertise. I love it. That's really cool. So do you go every day to physically to work, or are you doing it all by spending time away?
It's all on Zoom mostly right now. One day
Isn't that difficult?
it's really hard. It's really hard, and it's been a challenge, like getting supplies to people and getting their the people who they live with to help them manage their art supplies in a reasonable way and things like that. So it's been a challenge, but we've really held our community together really well, which I think is sort of the most important thing, is that everybody is still making and keeping up their practice, even if not all of the work is like kind of the stuff that the gallery's going to pick to show. It's still practice, and it's still making, and it's still seeing people and getting feedback on your work.
Right.
Yeah. No, we're all missing it. I mean, the staff too is just like, we all are like, we miss being together with everyone in the studio and around all that creative energy and love all the time. It's really
That's the thing I miss most about being a youngster, because when I was a kid and I went to acting school, I was pretty radical, and I would say whatever I wanted, and I was around a lot of young actors and said whatever we want. It came out of the top of our head, and people would go, "That's just amazing," or "You're full of that," and we'd keep the creative thing going all the time, and we're around these like-minded people. I wasn't, it takes like 10, 15 people, much like this club, which I love, that you can be like that. You can go off on a tangent and someone can go, "Yeah, that's a great idea," or "No, that's not so good." We need that, especially creative people, because it's only you creep back into your shell.
When I'm making my art, I'm like by myself in my studio, but then like being around all of the other artists creating, I kind of wish that like I had a studio that was just like that, where like I came and got set up and had a whole bunch of artists around me, like an art, like a shared art studio space for my practice. But of course, when I'm at work, I'm like, I'm focusing on their practice.
Yeah. But I find that if I'm not careful, my inspirational world just gets tinier and tinier and tinier until I turn into a little teeny squeaky thing and it implodes. Well, that's not actually going to happen, but I like to dramatize.